Oh, thank you. Okay, Jan. So we're going to start with you. And I believe right now you are trying to sort your data by number. So
Yes.
numerically, and you're having some trouble with that, right? Do you want to talk us through and show us your setup?
Yes, I can show you what the issue is today. And I share my screen here. Okay, now you see my screen, right?
Yep.
Perfect. Okay, so in my last step, I was I have to put here. I was summarizing a score ID or score points for the different profiles I have. Now the next step is to sort these profiles with these scores I was calculating. But the problem is, that the single numbers, I think because it's a 6 and there's a 4, the sort is in this order,
Yeah.
4 and the 2. And so how can I sort it like the real numbers so that 6 is, back?
Yeah, so we have a path that's specific for handling this, because what it's doing, it's trying to, or it's not trying, it's actually sorting it as a string instead of a number. But what you'll have to do is change the setup. You won't be able to use it directly through this data collection, this binding. You'll have to first throw it into a variable, and then after that, do a set value. But essentially, there's a path called numeric sort, and the name is camel case. And when you provide that, you just provide the field ID in the parentheses of that path, and then that will handle the sort.
You can set it up right now on this. If you just keep it how it is, but just like resort the grid. So you like say like get it from the grid value or the grid data and resort. You can do that, right?
Yeah, actually I want to do this, yeah. So I only need the new sort. Yeah.
So just basically
so where do I start?
after this is loaded, you'll just want to add an action. So it can be like on page binding after the binding.
Okay, the page binding from the whole page, yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
And then just like add a new action and do it'll be set element value.
Okay. Set value.
Or element set value, the second one.
Okay.
And so that to get that first the element you're going to set, you want to select the grid.
This one. Grid list.
And then for the value, change it to from element value instead of text there. And select that same grid. So you're like getting its own value.
Yeah.
And then instead of value, I think it's a little safer to change it to data. And I'm not really sure, it'll probably work with value too, but I think it's safer to do data. And then add that path. And this is the path that Dorian was talking about.
Numeric sort.
Yep.
Okay.
And that should be good like that. And if I forget if this is ascending or descending, but if it's the wrong one, we'll add a second path of reverse. But right now, try it like this and see if it does what you want.
Well, you need to specify the parameter.
I'm sorry.
To tell it which key. So if you click on that, and I don't know if you have that ID already or if it's a static variable.
Is it the ID from the data collection?
Okay, yeah, then you'll probably need to go copy that first.
My ranking scores. Oh no, it's not the ranking scores. It's so I'm here at podcasts with this. It's my ranking counter.
Yeah.
And this ID, isn't it?
Yeah.
All right. And okay.
Nice.
And then like Mark, like Drew said, we'll see how it does it, because I think it does ascending first, but you can always throw a
Okay.
reverse to make it go the other way.
Did we break it?
No, broke.
Okay.
Not sure why that happened.
Yeah, and I would actually do it like the setting it as a variable, because you're not setting the data twice, you know?
Yeah, I was trying to make
Okay.
it like faster, like a shortcut, basically, but it's better to do what he's saying.
Yeah. Okay.
So like leave
That
this,
action?
and then you would add a new action above it for
Yeah.
set variable.
Set variable.
Yeah, and then drag that one above the other one,
Yeah. Okay.
and then make sure to have a weight between them.
Right.
Yeah. And let's just give it a name, and then the
Okay.
value will come from the data collection, whatever you want to call it. Just-
Grid sort. Count. Okay.
And then this will come from the data collection. And this would be exactly like you have it mapped on the data tab for that grid element.
Which one?
Just like you have it on the grid element. I don't know. I didn't read.
You're
all
just
the-
like pulling in the list of all the rankings or all the data, whatever you set into that grid originally with the purple binding data tab.
Okay. Yeah. The podcast, it's our fields. And do I need the counter here? Oh,
You don't need to sort it here. You can just take them in because we're going to resort it next.
Yeah. So I think that's probably enough.
Yeah, you
Just-
can leave that blank.
okay. I think it's like this.
Yeah, and technically you don't need the sort, because we're gonna change it anyways.
Oh yeah. Okay.
And then go here to the element set value, and then change the value to come from the variable instead.
Yeah,
Yeah, right there.
a variable.
Yeah, and then click in there. Yeah, and then let's add that same path again. And then you would actually also want to remove the binding from the element. That way it's, it's not here, but go to the actual grid element. Like hit the little X at the top right to close this right panel.
This one?
Yeah.
Yep.
And then here in the data collection, click in that menu, that first select there, and just set it back to nothing. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Because we don't want that, because then it's gonna be erased.
It's twice. Yeah.
So you guys are doing the data binding via action.
It's a
And when-
manual. Yeah.
Gotcha. So when you do that, you shouldn't use the data binding on the tab.
Yeah, or else you'll end up with the same thing where it's doing it twice.
Okay. 0, 0, 0.
So yeah, so it's ascending now, but it's working.
Oh yeah.
So if you want them in the other order, just add another path for reverse. Page binding, yeah.
Binding.
And then in the set
Um,
value.
And the set.
In there,
Yeah,
yeah.
set value. Yeah.
Click
Okay.
into there and then just type reverse, and it should be in that list. Yep. And then that one doesn't have any parameters, so that should just do it.
And refresh. Oh yeah, perfect.
And there you go.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Paths are so magical.
Yeah.
Jan, Alex was wondering if you got Stripe working. I know he had shared some information with you on test versus, I think, production.
Yes, I didn't try it yet.
Okay.
So yeah,
To be continued.
I think it's the same thing like I think because I switched from the test mode to the live mode and back, and yeah, since then it's not working, I think.
Yeah, you have to change a couple things. I think it's like endpoint, API key, and the product IDs all change when you go live to test. So
Mhm.
write
Yeah.
something in there.
Alex, thank you for sharing,
Yeah.
sharing
I
that.
got
info
stunned,
from,
so
yeah, from what you figured out.
totally.
Okay, well, if you run into, once you do or get through that, Jan, let us know and we can help out. Okay, so thank you, Jan, for that. Next up, we have Bexley. And you were wanting to know or see some basic examples of performing math, like taking values from two input fields, doing a calc, and putting the result into another display field. Do you have anything we could see on your screen, or is there a small setup, maybe Dorian or Drew, that we could do real quick just to show that taking values from two input fields, doing a calc, and then putting the result in another display field?
We could probably set it up. It's pretty simple to set up. I
Cool.
don't have anything prepared. I don't think that would show that.
Okay.
My connection's
great.
not great, so I don't think it'll sharing will work.
Okay. And
I guess it's really just I see the path field for math, but I don't know how to feed the inputs into it. So do I need to put them into a variable and then put the variables into the path, or that's what I'm kind of not understanding.
Oh god, if you're gonna say something, Dorian.
I was just gonna say you can do it in both methods. Are you gonna show something, Drew? Or?
Yeah, I'll share my screen. That should be good. Is that like good size and everything?
mhm.
All right. I just-
Bexley, are you from Australia?
Yes.
I love Australia. I lived there for half a year. On our agency side, we have a big client in Australia, and I went over there to launch the app and train everybody. It was so fun. I would 100% live there again.
I've been living in Europe this year, currently in the Netherlands, but heading back for the summer.
Oh, that's fun. Whereabouts?
So yeah, I'll head back to my hometown of Perth, visit
Ah,
the family for summer. So.
yeah, very cool.
Cool. So I just put two inputs on a page and then a text box so we can output like a result. So super simple kind of setup. But what I'll show you first, what you were talking about with paths is like almost what I would call like a trickier or like more complicated way to do math. It's sometimes you have to do it that way, and sometimes it's really more useful to do it that way. But there's also this like math input type. So that's what I'm going to use, because that's probably like a little bit easier and a more universal way to do math. So basically, like you know the input types. If I'll do this as a set element value first. The input types that are up here, so it's like elements from an element value from a variable, whatever, all these.
Yep.
There is one called math here. So that's what we can ultimately use. But let me set this up as an example. So I'm going to run an action that's set element value, and I'm going to set element value of this text box to be like a math operation of this plus this or something.
Yeah.
So I'll choose the text box first, and then for the value, that's where I change it to math. And what you can do in this math box is you can add, like, it's pretty versatile. You can go like 1 plus 2, and the value that will output will be 3. Or inside of here, you can say like 1 plus, you want to get a value from an element, or if you want to get a value from a variable, you can do it like that.
See that. Yeah, that's what I didn't understand, is how to pull in the variables or the elements.
Exactly. And so for this one, I would use that element value, because I'm going to get the element value of this input plus this input. So I'll just do bracket, select the first one, and if I want to add them together like this, and select the second one.
There you go.
And that's what it would look like. And so I think, I'll put that on click of this, test it real quick.
Yeah, knowing to place a bracket. I guess if I tried, I would have seen the pop-up, but yeah. That's cool.
So 1 plus 3 is 4.
Cool.
Yeah, and we actually have run into a weird situation where in like, I think it was like Portuguese keyboard, that bracket wasn't working.
Hmm.
So for a minute, when you originally asked, I thought maybe it's something like that too. So I guess that's possible, but it should be okay. I think for most people, the bracket key works and pops open that element value.
Yeah, sweet. No, that's that'll be great. That's all I needed to get me past that. Yeah, hell, that was I saw all this. I just didn't know how to pull in the references.
Yeah. There's definitely like, it's powerful and there's a lot you can do, and it's not explained in a lot of places. So thanks for asking. Actually, we can now we'll have this video to point people to.
No worries. Cheers.
Cool.
Think
Cora, are you
you're
muted?
Cora.
I was just asking if you're all good, Bexley, or if you had any other questions.
No, that should be good. I should be able to carry on from there. Yeah, that was just my main blocker, is how to pull in those elements. So.
Awesome. Great. Well, thanks for the chance to let us show that. Thank you, Drew, for that example. All right, moving on. Is Trojan 5X here with the Google Tag Manager stuff?
He's not. I'm chatting with him in Discord now. He can't make it, but I can try to talk through my setup. It sounds like he was having an additional issue that we might be able to talk through here now as well. I can just talk through it here and then see if that's helpful.
Cool.
Yeah.
So I'll pull up my example that I was walking him through that seems to have worked for me, and then you guys can help identify if maybe there is something going on that needs to be adjusted as well. It's like me and orient my video here. So his goal, Google Tag Manager, in case people aren't aware, unlike a lot of analytics codes that just need code in the header, you also need to do something that leads the code on the body of that page as well. And so his setup that he's already got going is he's got this setup. I haven't verified this for himself, but I haven't seen this page in his setup, but he says he's got this loading on all the pages that he needs it on. And then he just dropped in page code directly onto a page in the body. I do this via this component that just loads at the top of every page that has that code. So I can just edit or add to it here in one spot. What he was doing, and this is where like maybe I've got something not optimally set up, or I don't know for sure, but what I've got going on is I just use a text paragraph element, and then I drop this noscript code into the display text stuff here. And then when I do this, it's able to load for me in Google Tag Manager. It sees it, it triggers it, and works. For him, he's saying like that's not loading for him. His setup was actually, because this is just using an iframe. So he was, he actually had, and I'm trying to recreate just over Discord chats here, but he was using an iframe element.
What's interesting is the part you're doing is the noscript part. So that's actually not even ever firing in a builder situation. So it could be that the iframe works, just like your display text here works, and it should. There's really no reason it wouldn't work. But I think that the issue is going to be probably that the page header is not on that page, because the page header is what's going to actually fire the Google Tag Manager in this scenario. And the noscript is only for if they have JavaScript turned off.
Okay, so sorry, I'm trying. I don't know how to digest that. Like,
So like
I don't know
the Tag
exactly.
Manager, there's two snippets. There's like the one in the header,
Right,
and then
there's
there's the noscript, which is the one right there.
right here.
That noscript thing, that whole thing that you have pasted in a whole iframe, the only reason it exists is a fallback. So if the user doesn't have JavaScript turned on, it'll use that noscript. If they do have JavaScript turned on, it's going to completely ignore that and just use the code that's in the header. So the header is the only code that matters. And as long as it's copy pasted correctly, the only thing I can think of is that it's not actually firing on the page that they're testing.
Gotcha. So
Yes.
that makes sense. That's also what I just told him, was like, hey, like double check your header too. So I'm glad that might be the issue, because that makes sense to me. And I guess to that point too, is what's happening is here's an iframe is just loading another page into it. And so that has its own rules to actually load the JavaScript as the fallback.
The iframe is actually just loading a single pixel transparent image. And then Google can track the loads of that transparent pixel. So it's a way for them to do tracking without JavaScript, but it's not nearly as like robust as their actual JavaScript tracking. It's just sort of a fallback. But in Builder's case, like usually I think you might need JavaScript before you even get to that, before it renders that. I'm not sure if that might render in a static file. So maybe it would be useful, but Builder relies so much on JavaScript. It's like if your JavaScript's off, you're not going to be using the site basically.
Right. Okay. One thing he kind of responded to this and pointed out that it does load in the page, but it loads, and I don't know the relevancy of this or not, but it loads like in these quotes here. And if he uses the iframe method, it doesn't load in quotes. Is that significant? And if so, what is it?
I think it's only because it's inside that noscript tag, and the noscript tag only runs if there's if JavaScript isn't enabled. So probably if it's not in quotes and it's just pasted in as an element, it probably runs every time. And I don't know, that might actually double the tracking. I'm not sure, but maybe Google handles that and doesn't count it twice. But I think in this case, it's just in the quotes because of the noscript. It's basically saying if there's no JavaScript, run whatever's in this tag, and it'll run it as code.
So Builder's adding in those quotes, it seems like.
I think actually the web inspector is adding those quotes. Like they're not really there in the code. Like if you viewed source, they're probably not, the quotes probably aren't there.
So this wouldn't be that.
I think, I mean, I don't know that much about noscript. It's like barely, like these days, I don't even know. I think it's probably barely useful, the noscript stuff, because almost everything relies on JavaScript.
Okay.
So I don't know. I feel like it's probably just like an old style of something, and like, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, they made GTM basically to like pre-prep for GA4's takeover like a decade ago, and I feel like it's probably a lot of out-of-date processes that they've got. I'll tell him. I mean, maybe this is or isn't valuable for him when he comes and watches this. But at the very least, I think just seeing like, hey, like double checking the header file, making sure it is loading. I just load it on all the pages because usually there's not really a reason that you probably wouldn't want your Google tag firing. And then that's how I have it set up on the page in the component that then loads up across all pages right at the top. And then, and then I think the biggest thing again is just if you load up the preview in Google Tag Manager, this as of now for me shows it's triggering all the events that I need it to trigger. So yeah, I bet it's just something like a little config thing. Maybe like the Tag Manager ID is not correct or the header is not on the page, but seems like it's otherwise pretty straightforward. Cool. I'll tell him that, and then yeah, I appreciate it.
Josh, thank you so much for being willing to help someone else work through the same thing and also show us your setup. Seeing something is super helpful. So I'll definitely ping him on this once I upload it.
Perfect.
Awesome. Dorian, did you have anything to add to that?
I was just gonna say, like, to confirm that the page header is being brought to the preview page. By going into the inspector and expanding the head, you should be able to expand all those script tags until you see that specific one. Because then that'll tell you if it's in there or not.
Okay.
So like, yeah, for him, like he needs to double check, make sure that's
yeah, make sure that's being run.
So I think we'll see how it goes. But it's here.
Okay. Excellent.
Cool. I'll pull my share off, and I have to jump off actually. So.
Oh, well, thanks, Josh, for dropping by, whatever, dropping in. Have a great rest of your day.
You too, guys. Bye.
All right. So Swift or Sweet PhD. Let's see. Okay, so you're working on, let's see, you use the NFT gallery template, you're having trouble with the metadata sync. Talk to us about what you've got.
Yeah, I'll share my screen, possibly. Here we go. That's why I need to give permissions really fast. Yeah, I think I've set everything up right, but I clearly haven't because it's not populating.
Or you found a bug, which is
Yeah,
great.
it could definitely be a bug. It's an early product, so I'm curious to see what's happening.
Well, I apparently just need to restart my Zoom
yeah.
so that I can
Yeah,
give it permission. So I'll be right
You know
back.
the
Sorry
drill.
about that.
that sounds good. All good. So it's, I love that we're talking about Australia because I don't know about y'all, but I love rocks. They're like the best treasures ever. I have rocks all the time and I fiddle with them. This one, I don't know if y'all can see it. It's called Mookite and it's from Australia. I got it here, obviously. I didn't even get it over there, but it's so cool. I don't know if you guys can read that. It's beautiful.
Fraser has one. Did you see that, Cora?
What? You like rocks as well? Yes. What is that? Is that like tourmaline or something?
It's fluorite.
Ooh, it's beautiful.
Yeah, I'm a nut for those things.
Okay, cool. Now I know we can talk rock shop.
Yeah.
Okay, so Jeff is back. Take it away,
Okay.
Jeff.
Okay, so this is the part right here where it's not working. I've got the metadata URL from right here.
Yep.
Come down here for the testnet contract address, which, oh man, I can't see my tabs. Okay, here we go. Man, I'm having a hard time with Zoom today. Where did I put the contract address? Right here. So I've double checked that. My admin wallet is the same as
I
the
can tell
Gorley
that's
testnet.
correct because you can see this.
So, and the other thing I double checked is that it is in fact publishing the tokens.
Nice.
So like they're there.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Okay, so and I minted one just to make sure that wasn't the problem. I thought maybe there would need to be one that was minted in order to, I don't know, pave the way for the other ones to be visible.
It looks like you're all correct in your setup, so we'll see what's going on. But yeah, so far everything looks good.
So, and I didn't change anything here.
Okay.
So I'm not sure if what's the best thing to do here? Should we click through these
I would
things?
say we can run it on the front end and open the network inspector first before you click it. And we'll look at, because this is going to do network calls. So we'll be able to see first if there's an error in the network or not. So yeah, it's that network tab. And then whenever, just click on that sync new tokens button. And so that second one, HTTP call on the list, click on that. And then on the response tab, it's like select, yeah, right there. 404 not found. Okay, so go to the request tab next to response. Metadata. Okay. That looks correct. So okay, so basically it's saying that it.
Well, does there need to be a slash there? Because
Yeah, there does. Oh, okay, that's exactly what's going on. This is great. Actually, this is something I'll need to fix. So the way to fix this is in the admin of the website.
okay.
In the actual preview of the admin. So yeah, here, but you can get rid of the network inspector if you want. In that metadata URL, add a slash at the end. That's something I need to look for and take care of automatically. So now if you sync, I think it'll work.
Ah, okay,
Good catch. Very good catch.
well, that solves that right there.
Nice. It's cool to see this in action. It's not I don't know actually if people have gone through the whole contract and metadata stuff yet, but this is the furthest I've seen anyone that I've kind of caught wind of.
I've gone through the course, I think, twice now. So
Sweet.
once to figure it out, and then once to, like, I pause and then come over and do it. So
Nice.
it's working well. It's fun.
Awesome.
And
Awesome.
yeah, Jeff, if you have any feedback, please share it with, share it with us, share it with Drew.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
we can fix anything or make it better. Excellent. So
Will do.
Drew, did you need me to write something up for you on that, or?
I'll make a note of it now just so we can keep moving, and then I'll do, it's not really a task thing for us, but maybe I'll do a task or something, but I'll put it in my to-dos.
Okay, sounds good. Awesome. Jeff, thank you for letting us take a look at that. And that's actually all that I had on the list for today. So we do have, wow, that we ran through everything fast. So we do have open time. Does anyone have anything that they need help with? Mitch, come on up.
That was one of those stretches, yawns that just like hurts your brain. So it's actually kind of weird. It looks like Xano is down at the moment. I'm suddenly getting these weird errors. I can't log into the back end. And it's actually worth, I guess, asking anyways. One of the errors that the error that I'm getting in console is new, but it's has been blocked by course policy. And then it's saying access control our origin to add that to the header. Is that something that's worth doing anyways, to add that?
Is that maybe, but is that like something that happens every time, or is that
No, just
like it used to work and then it just started happening?
Yeah.
So really, I think if you cleared your cache and did a hard refresh, it would probably fix it. That's my
I
guess.
did that.
Oh, really?
I have a feeling that Xano is down or something is going on, because I tried the hard refresh, went in a different browser. As I said, I can't even log into my backend, so something.
Yeah, I mean, that's a weird error, but sometimes when services are down, you just get weird errors too, like a wrong error. But really, like when that happens, if you set that flag to allow cross origin, it might work, but it's technically a little less secure. So if it used to work without setting the flag, I would keep that flag off.
Okay.
I do think it's probably because they're down in that case, but I've seen it before where if and this is a bug, so I think we're still trying to track it down, but it's if you have like the studio open and it loads the font, when you preview, you'll get a CORS error like on the font. And it's a really weird thing. It only happens when the studio is open. So what I do is I clear cache and refresh, and then it just works. So I thought maybe it was something like that too. And I have no idea why that one happens, but it's a weird CORS error.
I mean, it's kind of annoying, and there's some questions I can't quite ask, but there are a couple of things. One is, in terms of how do you know when everything is loaded? So, for example, if you wanted to do a loader or something else just to fill it in and have it disappear once everything's loaded, how do you know when everything is loaded?
It probably, I don't know if Dorian might have a better method than me, but I would say it depends on what exactly you're loading, because like different things have different callbacks or different lengths of time to load, and it's kind of like custom to what you're loading. And basically you just have to set up a system to wait until the last thing's loaded and you fire some action. But you'd kind of get creative with how you actually implement that.
Yeah.
Is there another way, Dorian?
No, it's the same method I do. So like the last thing that's happening is an API call to go get some data. At the end of that, I put a wait with the condition and things like that. It just depends, like Drew said, just depends on the setup.
Well, there's
Now,
even
wait
like,
with what condition?
you would say like if your last thing is running an API call,
Yeah,
you would say the condition would be like if there's a response, like if the response is 200 or if the response exists, do something. But the API call action now has an actual input for flow and success, so you could just use that. That's basically what he's saying, is doing that manually. He's
I
old
mean,
school.
the API call is not at the end of the flow.
Do you
there's
know
some
what's
stuff
at the end of the flow? Like, do you know what's taking the longest to load or anything like
Well,
that?
you know, it is the API call that is slowing everything down. It's just that there are other actions that happen after it. I mean, I don't actually know at what stage of the entire flow it's happening, but I guess, but bottom line is, if I just pop either at success or at the end of all of the page load flows, that's the best approach to that.
Sometimes that would be perfect, but if you have an API call and then a couple other flows, the API call is going to run like asynchronous. So it'll make the API call, the other flows will run, you'll get to the end, but technically the API data isn't back yet. So that's where it comes in, where if you know that, you might want to set in the API, maybe you run something at the end of all the page load flows that checks if the API call is back yet. And if it is, say everything's loaded. If not, like wait for it. It's kind of, it can get tricky. And if you load things into a grid, it adds another layer of trickiness where the grid is all separate threads. Like each row of the grid is loading in its own thing. So like I do a thing where when each grid page loads, I'll check the array index, which is the number of the row, against the count of all the rows in the grid. And I'll say, like, if it's the last row in the grid, I know the last row just loaded, then I fire an action on the main page to say the grid's all loaded. So it can get kind of like a little bit in depth, but you can basically get it done.
That actually is a really good idea. So, because it is the grid elements that are the soaking it up. So, so you're saying if you're checking the array and the last element, the index is the last element, then you fire it. So how would you check? Would you run like a continual loop, like
I would run it on each row page on the page binding, like after everything's bound as the last step. I would say put a condition action and say if the variable underscore array index, which is that array index variable, if that equals parent page element grid dot length. So it's like I'm getting the grid data and the length, and you actually have to do a -1 in there somewhere because the index array starts at 0. So it's a little bit, it's tricky to say, I guess, but it's like, one thing where you're doing a condition, you're saying if array index is the last possible array index, then you run flow on page and you have a flow set up on the main page that's holding the grid element. And I usually call it like grid is loaded or all rows loaded or something. And then whatever you put in that flow, you just fire that flow if the array index of the row page is the last one.
Can I reach out and pop something in and get that? Because it's
I mean, the actual part described as tricky. I could probably just send a screenshot that shows it. It'll make sense. So I can find. I've done it in a lot of projects. So I can probably find it somewhere and just take a screenshot.
In terms, I've always been curious when it comes to the flows, and you have, the wait, don't wait. If you have don't waits after waits, is it all in order? Does it wait? And I mean, how does it trigger how does that work?
Dorian should probably answer this one. I think he knows way more than me about it.
So it waits, but because you can have nested flows with waits, so it's like it goes top to bottom, but if there's a nested flow in between, you have a wait after, it's going to go horizontal, do all those, then continue down the chain.
But if you had like just no nested, but it was like wait, don't wait, is it when it gets to that wait, that second one, then it turns into asynchronous? Is that what you're saying?
I'm not sure I understood the question.
Yeah,
So
it's
like
not technically asynchronous, but yeah, what you're saying is correct. Like it'll start going, if you have a don't wait, they're going in order still, but they're firing instantly. So it's not technically asynchronous. It's like all in a row, but it's like so fast you can't tell.
Right.
Yeah, if you have a couple waits and then it gets to one where there's don't waits, it's just going to start firing them all in a row until it hits a wait again.
Okay.
That's what you're asking, right?
Yeah. Okay, and then I had one more question if there's time.
Yeah.
So, I have, I can actually share the screen at least for this. So I'm trying to, deal with the whole screwed up world of responsive. But the thing that I'm trying to do here is basically, I think, because I actually want to add a few other menu items. So I'm thinking of popping this button on top. So I'm just from like a best practices perspective, would it be, because this is right now is flex, and I know you can do order. Would that be the best approach to just change the order and pop it up, or would you do like a separate flex box that shows up at breakpoints and hides the main container?
I would say that it depends. Either method it would work, so it depends on how comfortable you are with CSS and with actually popping it out using Flexbox, because that stuff gets tricky really fast, so if it's a button and there's one event, one click event attached to that button, and it's pretty straightforward. Yeah, like no problem, just have two of them, and at the small one show the one, and at the large screen show the other one. That would work perfectly fine. Otherwise, that what you described is correct. Like I would usually, I use grid more often for whatever reason. Like it's usually what I'm more comfortable with, I guess. But like I would just change the order. So put that button first and then change the width of it, or whatever you need to do to make it fit. That would be perfectly fine and technically slightly like more correct, right? Because you're not doubling an element. But
Right.
it's so much trickier sometimes, depending on the layout. Sometimes it's a real easy switch, but if it's a real tricky layout, I'll usually just have two of them and just hide and
Okay.
show them at the screen size.
Cool. I appreciate all the help.
All right, thank you, Mitch. Bexley has a question in the chat. How persistent are variables? If a user does a browser refresh, would it be cleared?
Yep, definitely. We get that question a lot, but browsers are just like for that exact, session that you're using the app. If you refresh, it's done. If you close the browser, it's done. If you switch to a different tab, the variable's not there, all that stuff. And there is a way, if you need persistent variables, you can use cookies or localhost. And we have actions for set cookie and get cookie, which is the same as like set variable and using a variable, and then set localhost and get localhost. Those will persist across sessions, or even, sometimes depending on how you set it up in different browser tabs of the same app.
Okay, excellent. Okay, everyone, anything else? I should have some music that I can play.
I do have
question.
I do have one other question. I haven't actually tried to address this, but it's related to a question that I saw in Discord about image files, and I'm calling image files from NFTs, but I need to, well, can I show you?
Yeah.
So when I call the image file from NFTs, it pulls the ones that are images, but then it doesn't pull the IPFS image. Is there a way to kind of have an alternate, like call both different kinds of images at this? And I can show you what.
Yeah, there should be, yeah.
This is where it is. So I just pull, oh wait, no, I'm sorry.
PS, if y'all use Jeroen's plugin, I believe you can find anywhere you use an action. So just if that's helpful, he built a plugin for that.
So I set the image right here, and then it's a URL. but the IPFS isn't recognized as a URL.
Yep. So it's just one image. Sometimes it's a regular image, sometimes it's IPFS. Is that what you're saying?
Right.
Yeah, it's pretty easy actually. It should be in this case. So if you right now you're binding that with the data binding tab,
Mm-hmm.
and we need to add a path to it. So you'll have to switch it to bind it with an action.
Okay.
So yeah, just like on page binding flow, just add an action for set value. And then choose the image and then set it from that variable image, or I forget the exact variable name. Maybe like something dot image.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Metadata.
So if you did that, now you're like back to exactly how you were. You can remove it from that data tab, so you don't do it twice, but you're basically exactly how you were. And then now we'll just add a path. So the IPFS images, they start with IPFS:/ instead of HTTP. It's like a whole different protocol. So web browsers aren't going to be able to display them like outright, but you can replace the IPFS: part with a different URL to use the IPFS gateway, and it'll show the image.
Okay.
So it's basically just a replace on this. So you can add a path and type replace, and then open a parenthesis. You can do it this way, type in here or either way. So this first thing that you're replacing is IPFS://, and the thing to replace it with is HTTP:// and then IPFS.io/IPFS/. So if you do this, it should show up, but this is like the HTTPS you probably want to use too.
Okay.
This is like the IPFS like default gateway that everyone can use to test. So it times out sometimes, the IPFS.io. So you can keep it like this for now and test it. It'll work most of the time. But what you want to probably do, or like what I do, is I pay for Pinata, which is like a pinning IPFS service, and they give me a free gateway. And so I use my gateway. So for me, instead of IPFS.io, it's like work and whistle.
Okay.
So you have to upgrade, I guess. But if you want to do this, you don't actually have to do this. You'll see when you try it, if it times out a lot and it's a problem, you can either get that gateway through Pinata, or there's probably gateways you can find online. I'm not sure. But yeah, see, it's like it's not broken yet. So I think it's still going. It's just it takes a second, and maybe it timed out because that IPFS that gateway is slow. But that's how you do it. So if you had your own gateway, it would be faster and convert it right away.
Okay. That makes sense.
And there's a chance maybe it's like we did something in those conversion wrong. Like if you inspect that and the path looks wrong, but you'd see it would just be something we need to fix in that path. Like I don't know. I can't say for sure. It's just not loading yet. But yeah, if you drop that div down and get down to the actual image, you can see what's set in the SRC of the image.
Huh.
If you want to check in, like see the one that's highlighted, you can drop that down, open that, and then, oh, actually, maybe that wasn't the right one. Yeah, in there.
There we go.
And then, find that one. Drop that down, drop that div inside of it. Yeah, that one, drop that, drop the next one until you see an IMG. It's probably going to be that div. Yep. All right, there it is. So we look at this HTTPS IPFS. So that looks correct. So I think it's just a gateway problem, and you can actually copy that URL in there and just paste it into a browser and see if you can get it to work. But that should be correct. So I think it's just like I was saying, it's like that gateway is slow and times out a lot, and it's just like not really production ready.
Okay.
But it's free.
Yeah, that makes sense. Cool. Yeah, I need to learn more about paths. Those are pretty handy.
Yeah, they're super powerful. It's really crazy.
All right, everybody. So I think if there's nothing else, that brings us to time. That was a really fun session. Thanks y'all for joining in. We do this every week. We'll do it next week. Just a little bit of, what do you call that? I don't know. Info, whatever. We're having a time change here in Austin, Texas. I think it's like November, the week of November. So I'm going to be creating a whole new office hours Luma thing with all the time frames moving forward, because Luma does this weird thing where it'll change it. And anyway, I'll send out a new link if you use that to sign up for email reminders and whatnot. But we'll probably keep it at 10 a.m. CST. I think 3:30 p.m. CST on the alternating weeks. So just wanted to jump that, but that may change the time for y'all. So I'll chat that out as we get a little bit closer. But other than that, thank you for a super fun session. Thank you, Dorian. Thank you, Drew. And I hope y'all have a great rest of the week.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.